Hello and welcome everybody, I'm Joshino and today I'm going to be breaking down Paladins patch 1.4 which has just been previewed and looking at the new events, skins, nerfs and buffs and more coming soon with this patch. And honestly, it is rather epic and there's some champions flying, there's balls going around and well, let's just dive into this. Also, the public test server is going up later tonight or today or wherever your time zone is and will be live hopefully on all platforms on the 22nd of August, fully released. Plus, this public test server will have a longer week, a whole week of uptime, and boy, people will probably be on the PTS rather than live with a lot of the stuff coming here. And I actually think it's good that it's up for longer, as hopefully more of those bugs can be knocked out in the time that's being tested by loads of people. Also, depending on how late it is, I'll hopefully have a stream here on YouTube in a bit, unless it is ridiculously late for me in the UK. Anyway, with no further ado, let's get on with the breakdown of this patch. First of all, the new event. Okay, so this special event is practically smashing both Paladins and Rocket League together, as we have a sort of ball match. So there's two teams of 4 players, both fighting over the key sphere, which is practically a ball, just with a dragon face on it, a very floaty one at that. And basically you have to collect the sphere and take it to the enemy vault and score a goal. Players with the ball, or keystone as it's called, cannot use abilities or be healed. However, you can either throw the key sphere, just drop it down, or it will drop when you die. There's always an indicator on the ball so you know where it is. And there's blind champion selection, though it seems champions with vertical ability will make great defenders and goalies, and perhaps faster champions in midfield, and perhaps tanks for the final little run into the vault so they don't die so quickly. But that's a little bit of speculation on the meta that is coming forward. And the way you win is by scoring 4 points on either side. The new map itself looks rather epic on the ground. It looks very regal and a part of the lore they're shipping. The idea is that there used to be dragon mages centuries ago that sealed dragon's power within the stone. However, those warders have gone, the defenders of this power, it's sealed up in crystals. And basically both the magistrates and paladins as resistance have found out about this and basically either want the power or to stop each other from getting it, or basically just having an arms race to be the first one to possess it, as it could tip the balance of the battle for the realm. I was half expecting some PvE event when they showed the lighting of the beacon in some of the teasers they were showing off earlier before this patch preview. However, actually I think this is a really fun take and a new little fun game mode which I think will go over pretty well and people will enjoy playing, at least for a little bit. Now, there's some skins related to the event and there's also a free track for people to earn. So the free track begins with 10, 20, 30,000 gold, then MVP sprays, emotes, roaming emote, and a death stamp. And basically you get the points by playing the match and doing well in the matches of this game mode. So those are the 3 things you can unlock, even if you don't buy the bundle. However, in the bundle there are 3 main skins, and then also a vault key which you get, which you can use to purchase one of 5 skins. So in this vault key, the first one that is new that you can pick up is Aurora Furia. It's a much more fully armored knight-like Furia skin. Personally, I would have liked this one to be the default one. It looks epic. It does almost look like she's ready to do battle as part of the Paladins and the Resistance, with bird pauldrons and the blue hue on her wings and sword looks rather epic, plus all of those blue effects on all of her abilities and the sort of bird things on the sword too. And you can either unlock this, or there's an option of 4 other skins. So the Rave Mave, Demon Lord Zin, Schoolgirl Sky, and Jade Priestess Ceres, alongside this Furia skin. So you don't necessarily have to get the Furia skin. If you liked any of the older skins, you can also pick one of those, which is an interesting touch from them. But with this skin, you do have to purchase the bundle, which is 1,200 crystals, which is rather high. However, you can also buy the 3 skins I'm going to mention next for 600 crystals, also high, but gives you a little bit of choice if you want to single pick one out. So the first of these is Overlord Khan, and this is basically a powered armored Khan. Like the Furia skin, it looks like he is fully kitted out for the Magistrate with some of the Magistrate symbols on him, on his weapon, and it has a lot of train motifs too, which gives a little hint to one of the fan-themed champions, Tremageddon. Also has some pretty epic exhausters back, almost steampunky pipes on his chest coming into a big crystal and sort of pumping, I guess, the power around his armor. And he does kind of look a lot like a Chaos Space Marine of 40k. It reminds me of the old Abaddon the Defiler, where he had spikes on top of his pauldrons. And it could look like a dreadnought or something. It just looks rather epic. And just very gritty on this Khan. Next up is the Outlaw Shaolin. This is a bit of an edgier Shaolin. He just seems to be a lot more matured, more in his late 30s, maybe early 40s. Honestly, this face trumped the old Nicolas Cage, well, then changed a little bit, face of Shaolin that the hi-rez themselves decided to put a bag over in the first battle pass. And honestly, would rather see something more along these lines. Next up with an eye patch as well, which looks rather cool. Just generally, he looks like more of a battered ranger or bandit, though his weaponry looks like it comes straight from the Resistance armory, with the Paladin's crystal being its arrowhead. And honestly, the bow looks epic. It's got some really fine details with the rope and the tension. You can see it pulling back whenever it's fired. Also, I'm sure there's going to be lots of Hanzo comments in the comment section below. And maybe some Mercy ones later on, because I'd already seen them on the live stream as it was going on, so that's going to be the new meme, I guess. And finally, there is a Moji skin, folks. That is Dragonborn Moji. This time around we can see Moji's face out and about, and she looks more like a mage and a part of the Paladins, and her familiar is now a fearsome dragon rather than a bit of a derpy mess. And I actually think she looks a lot more gritty and less Disney or Looney Tunes than the original skin. And I feel it fits in with a lot of the map redesigns and the newer maps that come in, like what we saw with Deepworks. I'd say the character almost looks like Conker's Bad Fur Day in the Revisited version on the Xbox. And I like that effect a lot more on this Moji. Actually, when you see her moving along, you can see her ears flopping around, and it looks rather cute at the same time as well, being a bit more mean now. Also, the ultimate cracks a golden snack instead, which is a cool little touch for the dragons. And the projectiles also look more mean and fiery and less silly. It just looks a lot more epic, I'd say. Either way, there's a lot of stuff in there, and I think I like all of them. And as somebody who plays a lot of Shaolin, I'm definitely going to be picking this one up. Next up, we have the nerfs and buffs, and let's jump into the nitty-gritty. And actually, there's a lot of reworks coming in this patch. So the big thing advertised was another look at the support champions in the realm, and some of the lower performing champions have been touched, and some of the talents reworked that weren't necessarily performing as well. So one of the big ones is Ying, so life exchange. So instead of shattering your illusions, that ability is changed into a beam to heal a target for 800 health. But again, you no longer can explode your illusions, and this has a 5-second cooldown. Now, I've been asking for a direct heal for Ying of some kind for a long time, as the problem with her illusions are that they randomly pick allies to heal, and that healing can often be spread quite thin across your whole camp, and you're not always going to be getting it to the person that you want to, or at the time when Cauterize and their debuffs are down, it's just random and they're basically turrets. So I think this is a big push in the right direction for Ying. However, the next two have probably got bigger changes, more positive. So Pip's talent, Combat Medic, now makes weapon shots heal allies. This could definitely take away the idea that Pip cannot be a main healer, although I mean, even with a Mega Potion, he can be pretty decent, especially with two tanks that might be in close proximity and you hit them often, and with the range extension of the potion, I don't think he's necessarily bad. However, now he could probably sit comfortably as a main healer with big healing options from both your weapon, being able to do potentially very high heals, and also your healing potion, which you might just use for yourself. It just takes the pressure off of your potion and being able to hit it all the time. And because your potion can have a relatively long cooldown, and if you miss it, then it often has a longer cooldown because your cards can't reset it and are based on whether you hit people. So I think this is a nice buff for Pip, and we'll be seeing a lot more of him acting as a healer. And I think for newer players as well, it'll be pretty easy to use. Grok has also had something similar. Spirit's Domain has been changed. Instead of being able to drop things at range, it instead now allows Lightning Staff to apply heals to allies. But that's not where Grok stops with all of his improvements, but that is definitely something that could make him a main healer. Although on the other side, he's got lots of buffs. So Lightning Staff, the main attack, now deals up to 30% increased damage the longer you are firing at your target consistently. There's about half a second before the damage increase reset, but you'll be basically juggling whether or not you want to stop and let the recharge of the weapon kick in, or whether you want to go for that longer reload, to whether or not you're going to want to do the extra damage to kill somebody. I think it's actually going to be a little bit of skill in managing the Lightning Staff a bit more here, but also with more potential for Grok to do damage. He doesn't really have much burst before and felt a bit lackluster compared to some of the other champions, unless he had Maelstrom, which I may add is also getting a buff. So weapon attacks will reduce it, instead of 0.3 seconds, the cooldown of Shock Pulse, to 0.5 on every tick, which is a big improvement. So you're going to be able to be getting off those Shock Pulses much more often. I think this was actually changed in the past, and this might actually be reversing it, although I don't recall the original values. But it doesn't stop there. Healing Totem, so before the old talent card let you deploy your healing totem further away from you, but now just base you can deploy it up to 100 feet away from you, but also it's been reworked slightly so you can deploy it quite easily above things and on top of elevation. It'll work a bit like the Ying illusions, although it's kind of harder to hit off. Like any of the things you deploy, things like the Kinessa teleport and things, it's not always the easiest to put something on top of a ledge that you can't exactly see. However, I think this is going to massively make the Grok overall just more potent with their healing, not only with that Spirits to Domain being able to do lots more direct healing, but also being able to get his healing totem off onto allies, even if you're not right next to them. Plus, that's not it, folks, that's not it. Grok has another buff. His ultimate Tempest now grants Grok flight. This is maybe one of the first orcs to be flying on their own, but basically you have a Willow's ultimate where you go into the air, though you're much slower and it looks a bit harder to control. But on top of this buff, you also have an increased radius of the damage and the heal, and the duration has been increased slightly too. Basically, they've buffed it on all fronts. You have more control over it, less chance to be bursted down instantly, and also it's just generally going to be better because the radius and the duration are slightly increased. So all in all, that is a mega buff for Grok, and I think we're going to be seeing lots of Grok this patch, and he's had a lot of buffs. He has fit in before with some more support metas, but I think they've given him a lot of utility here. Even without having the Maelstrom where you had to be like a damage Grok, you could be a main healer with the Spirit's Domain. Finally, in the supports, Meldumba has had some changes, not necessarily buffs, but buffs to talent cards in specific. So with Chronos Wrath, this is the one where you get the 500 damage if you hit somebody with a snake. So the snake toss speed has been increased from 120 to 200. Essentially, it's going to be almost double as fast once you're tossing the snake, so that damage is going to be easy to get off, and also you'll be able to get the stuns off a little bit easier. So this is going to be specifically, I think, for people that pick up Deft Hands and are going to be the stun damper. The only downside is the internal stun timer goes from 3 to 4 seconds, so you can't constantly stun somebody, but you're probably going to be able to stun one person or several people on a team easier, basically, and probably more often across a team rather than just one person. Also, Ripened Gourd has got an interesting option for a lot of healing, and that is that the Gourd has a 50% chance of it not going on cooldown, but the only thing is you can't stack two Gourds on top of each other, but the idea is basically because of the 50%, you might get it back straight away. You might even get it back straight away several times if you're very lucky. So you can stack them across a very large area indeed. And if you imagine having two, you could have, say, one on the point and one where your frontliners are maybe pushing forwards a bit more and just generally giving a lot of heals across the map. Grover's Blossom has had a reduced cooldown from 12 seconds to 10 seconds, so Grover hopefully can do some more consistent healing. Along with his talent Deep Roots has a new effect, so Crippling Throw now roots for 1 second and bounces between enemies, so I'm guessing it's going to work a bit like Grok's Shock Pulse, but I think this is a big deal. You can spread out a lot of crowd control across a few enemies, so should be rather good. Ceres has also had a buff with an increased range on their Restore Soul, their normal heal, from 100 to 120, so just slightly further, and also the talent card Soul Collector increases the max stacks from 8 to 15, so quite the survivable Ceres. Two interesting options there and a little buff for Ceres. On the flip side, Furia's got pretty much a nerf across the board. Kindle's Soul has a reduced range from 175 to 120. Before it was pretty much across the map. So on the cards as well, Light of Dawn reduces a shield that you can put on allies from 100 to 50 at each level, which is a massive reduction. It will mean you have to pour more points into it to get something out of it. I think it's actually a relatively good buff. The shield was insanely strong on the Fury, although with all the other nerfs, could be rather painful. Moving on to some other champions, Victor has had a bit of a rework to the talents. So Gunnery is a talent that gave 15% bonus damage whilst in your iron sights. This is being getting rid of, and instead there's something called burst mode coming. And this is a 3-shot burst, has higher damage and better damage at range, so the drop off is less noticeable. So instead of 100 meters on the normal weapon, the burst mode starts having the damage drop off at 150 meters, which is quite a big deal. And the switch around with this is that this is now the talent card at mastery level 12, and Firefight, the 30% bonus damage whilst hip firing, is the default. I'm not sure how long-term Victor players are going to react to this, although personally, now that they have a lot more champions with normal guns, in inverted commas, like automatic weapons, Victor's no longer sort of that champion that all new players are going to go to before the automatic weapons. There's lots of SMGs on tanks, flanks, and you've also got Tyra with a rifle too. Be sure to let me know what you think about this one though in the comment section below if you are a Victor fan. Personally, I think it'll be interesting to try out this burst mode and should be rather fun. And finally, Makoa has had a talent change. So Davy Jones Locker, this is where you could combo the hooks if you got kills, has been changed, and this is something rather fun. Shell spin now lasts until cancelled, and you can control this direction with your camera as you spin. Once cancelled, it still has a 12-second cooldown, depending on your cards, and there's a 1.5-second lockout on damage with the shell, so you can't just keep going into the same person over and over again, spinning into them. But I think this is quite an interesting option for a sort of very aggressive flanking Makoa in being able to just get in and out of the fights. Although, it just sounds like it'll be rather fun. I don't know whether it will be the real pickup this patch, but we'll just have to see. Another champion that's had buffs, kind of oddly, that's Androxus. Defiance has been changed, so it has increased range, though the actual frontal cone has been reduced. So as long as you aim on a target, you should be able to hit further, and it can also hit multiple players in front of you if they are in the area where you're punching. I'd say it's mostly a buff there. If you've got a bit of skill and you can aim it, then you should be able to hit out. Also, the talent Darkstalker has the health threshold go from 40 to 50%, so you're going to be doing that extra damage more often. Although personally, I just wonder whether Heads Will Roll is too strong and still too much of a big pickup for him. Ashes has a sword buff, so the Assert Dominance ultimate has an increase in horizontal strength of jump, so you should be able to jump further onto the point, I guess. That's a nice little touch for Ash, who's slowly getting there with some changes, but maybe not quite in the meta yet. Bomb King's had a nerf to Royal Subjects. This is one that increases the radius of the bombs, which has gone from 30% to 20%. This has been nerfed quite a few times. I think it's just one of those talent cards which is kind of annoying. Not sure whether it's just a lazy one, and it was kind of annoying on the Onslaught and Deathmatch maps where they're very tight and it could take up a large area of the map. Buck has had an interesting change to a talent. So Booking Madness used to be the talent card where you could ultimate forever if you kept getting kills, but they've taken that away just because it was kind of hard to do and very situational and kind of just a fun thing. Now eliminations increase your attack speed by 20% for 10 seconds. So this is just an interesting take on it, and to give you a bit more DPS. And again, eliminations are not kills or assists, so you only need to tickle somebody with your shotgun and have your ally kill them, and then you've got that 20% extra attack speed. Obviously that's capped by your reloading of your shotgun and things like that, but gives you a little bit more of a burst damage. A big one, and they missed this on the patch preview show, is that Cassie has had her impulse nerfed. So the extra damage is going from 250 to 150. I mean, it's not huge, but could be the little nudge to take the edge off of the huge burst she had before, and kind of a nudging towards not being this ridiculous burst. I think they have struggled with Cassie for quite a while in trying to make her fit in, because she was kind of a bit more like a flank before with the unlimited rolls, and I guess she's just trying to find a place, but they maybe slot her in too powerfully for quite a while. Just Breathe has also been changed, so crossbow shots deal 850 damage past 120 feet. Some more consistent high damage there as well, which could be an option. Evie has had a bit of a rework. I'd say it's mostly a nerf, because off Wormhole, this is the Blink talent, they've removed the 1 second cooldown reduction on the Blink, which was quite good for the Evie. I think she's in a relatively nice spot, quite strong as a flanker. However, they have reworked the talent Snow Globe. This is the ultimate one, which gives you an increased duration of the ultimate from 2 seconds to 3 seconds, and the energy cost from 60 to 50%, so you can get that ultimate ridiculously fast. It was already one of the ultimates that charged very fast in the game anyway, because each of the hits from your weapon gave you quite a lot of charge. So it could be something fun to play around with. I don't know whether it'll be meta, but we'll just have to see. Maeve is another champion that's been the ire of a lot of people for a while, and that's because of Street Justice, and this has once again been tweaked. So it now executes enemies at 35% health with a pounce. Before it was based on the missing health, and especially on tanks, this was a lot of damage if you doubled it up. The missing percentages, you could burst down enemies very heavily. Now this is more of a finisher. I still think it's rather an annoying thing that you can insta-kill somebody if they're low, but the thing is, you personally can't as easily burst somebody down with the 9 lives into the pounce, so you get the double pouncers, taking off a lot of damage, especially on the tanks. You have to get them down, or your allies have to get them down before you can pounce on them and kill them. We'll just have to see how that works, but it's kind of an annoying mechanic, I'd say, still a bit, but it could actually sort things out. It might not be a pickup, because it might not be meta. A bit of a weird one is Moji's talent Toot has removed the move speed bonus and reduced the cloud duration of 6 seconds to 3 seconds on that heal. I don't get this one as much. Moji on PC isn't that strong, although I can see why Moji is strong on console after playing a bit with the Switch. It's almost impossible to play some champions like Pip, so I can see why they may have been tweaking around with her as she's sort of a point and click adventure. Also, Charlene has had a nerf on his talent Desert Shadow. The 2 second stealth increase has been removed, so it's only got the bonus damage. But I don't think Charlene has necessarily been overpowered this patch. He's just always been relatively strong, and one of the champions I'd say was in a good place. But we'll just have to see how that plays out. The stealth probably isn't the biggest element of his abilities anyway, and can be countered quite easily from reveals and illuminate. Torvald has also got a buff, so protection increases a shield duration from 2 seconds to 3 seconds and has a cooldown reduction from 9 seconds to 8 seconds. So that's an interesting one actually. Torvald's sort of been out of the meta for a while there. Vivian has also been reworked slightly, with Sensor Drone being able to have 2 out instead of 1. This will work with a lot of things, so the mine ability, with the damage reduction ability, it's going to give her a lot of oomph. She's been kind of out of the meta for a while. Now she might be more of a pickup, either with revealing all of the enemies, having damage reduction most of the time, or perhaps having mines everywhere. Also, the talent Booby Trap now applies a knockback, but has an increased arm time of 0.1 seconds to 0.9 seconds. Kind of a nerf. Although that booby trap might come in handy if a flank is trying to come around and knocks you away from them or knocks them into the air. I mean, you can also track people quite easily with your rifle, so people being knocked around isn't too bad for you. You're not a projectile firing champion. So mostly a buff for Vivian there. Also, Khan has had a talent rework of Lian's shield, increasing the effectiveness of 60 to 100%. Not sure it's still going to be used, but that's, I guess, an increase if you want a big badass shield. And maybe if you're a new player starting the game and people aren't picking up Wrecker, that could be an interesting option. So finally, a few bug fixes they mentioned. Ash's Fortress Breaker should now register properly before it wasn't all the time. Bomb King's Accelerant, so something annoying that's been in the game for a long time. The audio should scale properly now, so you're not caught unaware thinking that you have a few more seconds on the Grumpy Bomb before it goes off, as that was very misleading before. Evie had issues with her blinking, sometimes triple blinking, and a lot of lag issues with ping, and that should hopefully be ironed out, which they've said. and Maeve Noise lives sometimes wouldn't register and activate, but should be fixed too. Should be covering each champion individually, looking at the gameplay and everything going on when the public test server goes live, but this has just been a quick breakdown of everything in the patch. Anyway, just be sure to let me know all your thoughts in the comments section below on everything coming. I honestly think this is a great patch. The game mode looks fun. All the changes seem like they're making the support stronger. Maybe some will be a little bit too strong out of the gates, but they have needed a buff for a little while, and it should shift the meta a little bit too. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe for all my content, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching everybody. Joshino.